I bought the mountain house sight unseen. A mistake, most would say. But when you find a cabin in the Rockies listed for half the average price, with no liens and clear title, it's hard not to bite. The pictures were a little grainy, probably from 10 years ago, but the bones looked good. Vaulted ceilings, a big stone fireplace, and those wraparound porches everyone wants. The house had been abandoned since the previous owner passed away during the pandemic, or so the realtor claimed. His daughter had no interest in keeping it and was eager to unload it quickly. I was happy to oblige. So I bought it. I signed the final paperwork in May, but between work, life, and a long string of excuses, I didn't make it up until late September. When I arrived, leaves were starting to turn and the sky stretched clear and cold above the treetops. The winding drive up the mountain was steep but manageable in my 4Runner. I pulled into the gravel lot around noon. That's when I noticed the first thing was off. The front door was another red flag. I approached cautiously. The lock was busted, not kicked in, more like tampered with and badly repaired. It hung crooked in the frame. Inside, things weren't as dusty or cobwebbed as I'd expected. In fact, they were suspiciously lived in. There was a faint smell of bacon grease. On the coffee table sat a still warm mug of tea. And on the couch, a large tabby cat, curled up like it owned the place. What the hell? I turned as I heard footsteps from the hallway. A woman, probably in her 60s, short-cropped silver hair, tight yoga pants, and a Lake Life hoodie, appeared, carrying a basket of laundry. She screamed. I screamed. Then she pointed a finger like she was accusing me of murder. "You can't just barge in here," she shouted. "This is private property." I was too stunned to speak at first. "Excuse me? This is my house." She squinted at me. "Not possible. I've been here 6 months. I have squatter's rights." The audacity. After a long, tense conversation filled with mutual accusations, I finally got the full story, or her version of it. Her name was Linda, but she insisted I call her Mrs. Schuster. She was the acting HOA president for the Cedar Ridge Mountain community. Not that I'd known there was an HOA when I bought the place. Apparently, she had taken it upon herself to monitor and maintain abandoned properties in the area, and when she noticed this cabin sitting vacant for far too long, she moved in temporarily to prevent vandalism and trespassing. She emphasized this was an act of community stewardship. Bullshit. She'd clearly been living there. She had moved in furniture, gaudy wicker chairs, an exercise bike in the living room, even a wine fridge. Her cat's litter box was in my kitchen pantry. I told her point blank, "You need to leave." She crossed her arms. "Not without proper notice. I've established residency." I called the county sheriff. Turns out, things weren't so simple. In this state, if someone's been living on a property for more than 30 days, even without permission, they can't be forcibly removed without a formal eviction notice. I had to serve her papers. 30 days notice. And during that time, I was legally barred from harassing her, changing the locks, or cutting off utilities. Except there were no utilities. She'd been using solar panels and siphoning water from the neighbor's outdoor spigot. The gall of this woman. I had 2 options: stay nearby and wait it out, or leave and come back in a month. I decided to stay. No way was I letting her keep squatting. I rented a tiny cabin 5 miles down the road and drove up daily to check in. Every time, she was there. Sometimes sunbathing on the porch in my deck chair, sometimes power walking in circles around my gravel driveway. She filed noise complaints against me with the HOA when I came up one morning using a chainsaw to clear brush on my own land. At one point, she claimed I was harassing a senior citizen and called the sheriff on me. The deputy who came out clearly knew her and just shook his head. "She's a handful," he muttered as he handed me a pamphlet about landlord rights. Day 15, she held a community meeting on my front lawn, folding chairs and everything, complete with muffins and a petition to stop development of commercial-style renovations. Only 3 people showed up. 2 were just there for the muffins. Day 22. I caught her putting up wind chimes and painting a "Welcome to the Mountains" sign on my mailbox. Day 28. I saw her handing out flyers warning neighbors about new ownership threatening the peace of Cedar Ridge. I hit my breaking point. On day 30, I returned with the paperwork finalized through the courts. The sheriff came with me this time. He was polite but firm, and I finally got to watch Karen, sorry, Mrs. Schuster, get escorted off my property. Her cat went with her, hissing the whole way. She shouted over her shoulder, "This isn't the last you'll hear from the HOA. You have to abide by our bylaws." I waved goodbye, but she wasn't kidding. The next day, I found a letter taped to my front door. HOA violation. Apparently, I had unauthorized exterior modifications and improper storage of construction equipment. Keep in mind, I had yet to do any renovations, just left a wheelbarrow out. I tried to formally dispute it. That's when I discovered Cedar Ridge's HOA was barely legal, mostly a social club with self-appointed officers like her. Still, she persisted. Weekly letters, veiled threats about community standards, and concerns about my intentions to modernize the property. I finally attended one of their meetings. Held in a barn-like community center, half the attendees were retirees looking for gossip and free cookies. When it was my turn to speak, I stood and said, "I'm here to renovate the cabin I legally purchased. I'm not turning it into a hotel or a yoga retreat or anything else you're afraid of. Just fixing up a place to live in." Mrs. Schuster tried to interrupt, but several people shushed her. Afterward, one of the neighbors, a man in flannel and suspenders, pulled me aside. "Don't worry about Linda. She's been trying to run this mountain like a private kingdom for years." Glad someone finally stood up to her. That felt good. I started renovations the following week. New roof, refinished deck, gutted the outdated kitchen. Every day I worked, I expected her to reappear. She didn't. Until the outhouse incident. One morning, I found it spray-painted with the words, "Unsanitary, unsafe, unwanted." No signature, of course, but I knew exactly who it was. I installed security cameras. 2 nights later, I caught her sneaking onto the property, wearing all black, trying to yank down the camera with a rake. That video got her hit with a trespassing fine and a restraining order. Now, a year later, the cabin is finished. Warm wood floors, new fireplace, high-efficiency windows that look out over a breathtaking valley. It's peaceful up here. Most of the neighbors turned out to be friendly, or at least not hostile. The HOA still exists. But after several complaints and a formal vote, Mrs. Schuster was removed from her acting presidency. Rumor has it she moved to Arizona. No mountains, no cabins to conquer. Probably found a new HOA to terrorize. And every now and then, I think about the absurdity of it all, how a $140,000 impulse buy turned into a bizarre battle of wills with a self-righteous HOA queen. Next time I buy property, I'll do a little more research.